I've been so excited to host this event today for all of you, to encourage you to have an opportunity to network and to explore what it means to have a career in the trades. There's not a better time for women to join this area of the workforce. There's so many jobs available and so many employers need employees like you. And so, again, just glad to have you here today. Good to see Lisa here. And when I think about women in the trades, Melanie is one that is, her career path is very interesting. Melanie, raise your hand so people know who I'm talking about. Melanie Patterson is one of our newest welding instructors, a graduate of Wallace State's welding program. And I'm not sure exactly where she began her career, but somewhere in her career pathway, and I think it's at the very beginning, she's a journalist, a news reporter. And here she decided to go into welding, and has been just one of the more outstanding welding students that we've had over time. And that is because women, pay attention to detail, and they're creative and that sort of thing. So she just channeled her skills into a different area. And when I look around the room and see women in truck driving, I'm on this road a lot. So I see more, and I remember the day that my son looked up, we were in the car together, and he looked up, he says, "Mama, there's a woman driving that truck. They're not supposed to drive trucks." Well, you can imagine how I lectured him for the next 2 hours while we're on the road. But it's so commonplace today, and that's good because I'm on the Alabama STEM Council. It's good for young girls to see women doing important jobs in the state of Alabama. We need more women to do those kinds of jobs. So again, I encourage you in your future career paths, and we thank you for being here today. I'm looking forward to the panelists and hearing their stories, and hope you enjoy Chick-fil-A. So again, welcome.
First off, I'm going to ask each of our panelists to introduce themselves to you and tell them what company they work for.
Hi, my name's Jasmine Berkey. Me and my husband are the owners of Bustin' Knuckle Off-Road here in Coleman.
I'm Brianna Morgan. I work at R.E. Garrison Trucking Company. I'm also a Wallace State diesel student.
Hi, my name is Rebecca, and I work at Blue Origin.
Hey, I'm Hannah Clemens, and I work at YKTA.
Okay, so first off, I want you guys to share with us something that you think would surprise us about you, or maybe something that you enjoy doing for fun in your spare time.
For fun, I like to spend time with my family and my nieces and nephews.
Something about me that would surprise everyone is I could not find an apartment for my dogs when I moved out here, so I ended up having to buy a boat and living on that for a year.
It's awesome.
Nice.
Something about me that would surprise you is I used to be a 911 emergency dispatcher.
I actually like to fly helicopters in my spare time.
Oh, wow.
Okay. Awesome. All right, so if each of you could tell us about the company you work for, what they do, and maybe what a typical day looks like.
Sure. So we run an off-road shop. Basically, we manufacture off-road rock bouncers from the ground up. We also ship manufactured parts and parts from said vendors pretty much all over the world for a lot of our customers. A typical day for me, I don't think there is a typical day. It's complete chaos from the time I get down there to the time I leave. We live where we work, so I hardly ever leave. As far as a typical day, I do a lot of the accounting side of our business as well. So just trying to keep up with books, as well as trying to schedule out different projects that we have going on throughout the shop.
I am a trailer technician at R.E. Garrison currently. And a typical day for me is I pull in 53-foot reefer trailers, which are refrigerated units mounted to the front. I can do anywhere from changing oil to changing belts. I repair body work on the trailers when they're messed up. I change tires, brakes, front to back. I do it all on the trailers every day.
So a typical day as a machinist is I mostly do a lot of math and try not to crash any machines into any hardware. That's a big part of my day. But I think it's unique in the fact that you have to do a lot of math, but you also have to turn a lot of wrenches, and I don't think that that's a combination that you find in a lot of places.
I work for YKTA. We're a supply company for Mazda Toyota, and so we make their body and chassis wheel parts for their cars. Typical day for me can be anything from doing PMs on our robots and our jig tables to resetting machines, rebuilding machines, anything that breaks we gotta fix.
Yeah, the ones that try not to crash.
Yeah, they get crashed a lot. We try not to, but it happens.
Okay, so could each of you tell us how you found your way into your current career, and if you had a career change that led you to this trade, can you talk about that as well?
I actually just graduated from the FANG program in Calhoun last May. The way I found my way into that, I have an uncle who works for Toyota, the motor company, and he encouraged me to get in to the FANG program, and that's where my company picked me up from.
I've actually tried a lot and started a lot of different college courses, and everything from teaching to criminal justice. And this is the only thing that is stuck, and I got into it because my dad was a machinist, and he did it because his dad was a machinist, and it's really the only thing that I've stuck with.
For me, like I said, I was a 911 dispatcher, and I did that for about 5 years after I graduated high school. I sat in a chair for 12 hours at night, and I answered phone calls, and I got tired of it. I love helping people, I do, but sitting in a chair, it really takes a toll on you. And I talked to my wife one day, and I said, honey, I'm ready to do something different. And she said, well, go for it. And I've always been fascinated by big trucks, anything big. It's got a big engine in it, I love it. I also have an uncle who is a diesel mechanic at Walmart, and I loved working on tractors and stuff with him at his house, on his ranch and stuff like that. So for me, it was just time, and I love getting dirty. I love working with my hands. I love making sure things are fixed. So it wasn't really a hard decision to make for me.
My career path has been from one extreme to the next. I think that whenever we go through high school, we all know, or maybe we don't know, but I knew in high school what I wanted to be. I wanted to go into the medical field. That's something that I was very passionate about. I took all the courses, I took all the programs that I needed to be in. I was told over and over again, you gotta go to college if you wanna make something out of your life. And so I thought, well, what would I really like to do that's gonna make money, that's also gonna lead me to college? And that was kind of, the medical field. And once I got into it, I had ended up getting my Associate of Science, and I had told my mom that I didn't want to go back to school anymore. She pretty much threw a fit, told me I was not going down the right path that I should be going down, that I should finish out my career and what I wanted to be. But I worked at an assisted living home, so I watched a lot of people die, and unfortunately it takes a special person to be in the medical field, and that just wasn't me. So I ended up going to a bass boating company, Phoenix Bass Boats. I did research and development with them for a while, and I did a lot of their wiring. And then I ended up meeting my husband off-roading, just because me and him have been off-roading basically our entire lives. So I met him. I ended up moving to Augusta, Georgia, and he had convinced me to quit my job, and then we kind of started our business. While I was working at Phoenix Bass Boats, I had passed this welding company, and it was right down by the house, and I thought, I keep on telling my dad, I'm like, hey, I'd really like to learn how to weld, and he was like, well, I don't know how to weld. And I was like, okay, well, I'll find someone to teach me. I ended up going in, there were two older gentlemen. I said, hey, I'd really like to learn how to weld. So I bebopped in there, I had shorts on, I had a tank top on, and I was like, I'm ready to weld. And he took one look at me and he was like, I don't think so. And so I was like, no, I promise I can do it. I've done it before, it just doesn't look good. Like, teach me how I need to be better in welding. So sure enough, he brought me in. It was him and this older gentleman. They had bucket trucks, and they would let me weld up their bucket trucks after I got off work. So they actually taught me a lot of the welding skills that I have today, which I currently don't use in my job anymore just because we have really good welders that can do that. However, I can still hang with them. Like I had my guys tell me the other day that we were going to do a welding game or whatever after work, and sure enough, I was like the third best so, out of like 10 of us, so I didn't really feel that bad about it. But yeah, to say my career path has really taken a turn, it definitely did, and I feel like a lot of that came from, I thought that I knew what I wanted when I was younger, but I think as we get older, that continues to change.
Awesome. Okay, and this is, this is for anybody who wants to answer. What do you love about your career?
Yeah, okay.
What I love about my career is diesel trucks and trailers take everything everywhere. Whether it goes by boat, by plane, by train, a truck took it there. So that I know that whenever something leaves my shop, whatever I fix, it's going to go and it's going to be right. That truck driver's not going to have to worry about a tire going out as soon as he leaves the yard unless something's just, was missed. But if a truck leaves my shop, I'm going to make sure he's going to go a couple thousand miles before he needs a service again. I know that the people of America, the people of the world have what they need, and I just love that because, I love people. I love helping people. So what I do helps people. That food you're eating right now, the chairs you're sitting in, everything in this room was brought here on the truck somewhere or somehow. So I love that what I do is what makes that happen.
I would say that it's not doing the same thing every day. I come into a different problem and a different challenge every day, and it definitely is an active job. You won't ever get stuck in a rut. There will always be something new every day.
I agree with what you said.
Okay. So, and this is again for anybody who wants to, what challenges have you faced in the workplace?
A lot of times whenever something new breaks down, because as she just said, it's always something new breaking down. But whenever something breaks down, if it's the first time you've ever had that problem or a similar problem, then it can be challenging to fix it. But one thing that I love about my workplace is I have a team of people ready to help me. If I haven't seen something before, somebody has seen something like it. So there's always somebody there ready to step in and help if you need it. And so it can be challenging at times, but there's always somebody willing to help.
Anybody else? Okay. What is it like working in a field that is male dominated? Not all of
You can
have
pass
mine.
it.
I was about to say, I got you. So for me, I grew up with two older brothers. So, I've always had that challenge of, can I do what they can do? And sometimes I can, sometimes I can't. Because, men they're basically stronger than us. But there's ways around it. You can find a way to do what they can do, no matter how hard it is. You just have to do your best. And for me, if I need help, all I got to do is ask. The guys that I work with, I'm the only female at my shop. I'm the only female that Garrison's ever hired as a technician because they just haven't had anybody. So for me, I go in there, and if I need help breaking something loose, they jump to it. Hey, let me help you out. Let me show you a way you can do this easier for you. At lifting heavy equipment, they just jump right in and do it for me. Help me do it. They don't have a problem with it for me.
I completely agree with you. I think a lot of it is being in the South. A lot of guys down here are raised to help women. So whenever they see you struggling, like a struggle for me would be picking up some of the equipment or some of the items or product that we have that we sell. Some of these are 50, 60 pounds. And so it's not that I can't pick it up. It's that no guy wants to see a woman struggling to pick it up.
As a woman in your field, have you ever experienced discrimination or harassment, and if so, how did you handle that?
As a woman in my field, I definitely experience a lot of, I don't want to say discrimination technically, but there are a lot of men who, you have to prove yourself in our industry. You have to show somebody that you know what you're talking about, that you know how to sell them product. You have to show someone like, hey, I've been around the block, you can trust what I'm telling you. And so for me, I do a lot of part sales. So if I have a guy calling in wanting some kind of upgrade to his LS3 engines, which we stock and we sell, you know, a lot of times I get, is there a guy there that I can speak with, you know, that may have more information? And it's funny, you know, because like I said, I'm an owner. So I kind of chuckle a little bit and I'm like, yeah, you know what, maybe you're right. I was like, but he's on the other line. Is there something that I can help you with? And so they kind of dumb it down, right? Because they think that you don't know what you're talking about or how to explain it. And so when you're able to prove them wrong and you're able to give them that information and you're able to tell them, look, I do know my stuff, it's a whole nother level of respect that they give you. And to me, that's really self-satisfying because you took someone who is already negatively thought against you and you turned them into someone who thinks highly of you. And to me, it's really self-satisfying.
Just on the previous question on what is it like working with men, they're hilarious.
They are.
They make jokes all day. It is one great big giant joke to them, so that's a good thing. As far as discrimination and harassment, the machine shops are very open and welcoming. Machinists love machining, so they always want to show you something. If anything, you know, I've had some people not want me there, but after a while they get used to me and they like me, and so it's almost like you kind of just got to be around and they get used to you.
Okay. What do you think is an advantage of being a woman in a male-dominated field?
For me personally, I don't really feel like I have an advantage over any of the guys because when I walk into work, I'm on the same level as they are. And like she said, it might be hard to get their respect in the beginning, but once they figure out that, hey, she knows what she's talking about, like she said, they look at you differently with more respect. So that in its own way can be an advantage because of the way we have to earn some people's respect. But that's about the only advantage I see because I do the same work as the guys do every day. So there's nothing different that they do that I don't do or I do that they don't do.
Yeah, and just being in the South, I think the guys are just more polite, so they just offer to lift things for you a lot.
Like Dr. Carlwick said earlier, we're women. We pay attention to detail. There's a lot of times, guys, they just don't care. They're going to do it how they do it. They don't care how it looks. We women, we want things to look nice. We want to look clean. We want to make sure they're done properly and that kind of thing. So that's definitely an advantage of being a woman. You're going to make sure it looks exactly how it's supposed to when it leaves or whatever you're doing.
Okay. All right. What does advancement look like in your industry?
Machining is broad, so you can start as an apprentice and go all the way up to a senior machinist, and that'd be at like a master craftsman level where people would call you in to fix things, to try to save a part. Somebody made a mistake and now you have to come in and fix it. So there's a certain amount of respect that comes with that.
For us in our factory, we have our own levels of management and everything. One thing for me that's been big is whenever I first got into the job, I saw one of the girls, there's 4 girls where I work, five girls. So the one that I started out with, she got promoted to team lead and then got promoted to engineering. So she's technically in a different, we're engineering maintenance, but there's her, and then I just recently moved up. So there's plenty of room for advancement in the industry.
With Diesel, any of the shops that you go to most of the time, you have your entry-level technicians, which is basically what I am. And then you have like your shop foreman, you have your lead technicians, then you have your shop personnel as you move up. So a lot of times when you go into these companies, like we go tour a lot of dealerships and things like that. So they do like A, B, C, D, and like D being the lowest. Like you don't know anything. You walk in the door, you've turned a couple wrenches, but you're not fluent enough to, just be turned loose by yourself. Then you move up to the next letter, which is C. You can do things by yourself. You start off doing like preventative maintenance, changing small things, and then you work your way up to where you can do full-on engine beat rebuilds, transmission rebuilds, anything you want from the ground up on anything diesel related.
Advancement in our industry looks a little different than most larger businesses. We are a small business, so when I think of advancement, I think of knowledge. We hire a lot of people. We hire students from Wallace State. We do apprenticeship programs to get kids in the door, because a lot of companies, especially smaller companies, they don't necessarily look at your degree. They look to see how you can perform. And so for us, advancement looks like, how many years have you been with a company? What tasks can you achieve by yourself, where nobody has to be with you, nobody has to babysit you? Because to us, that's a large advancement. If I have a machinist that I took from Wallace State, and he's been with us for 2.5, 3 years. I don't have to tell him anything. I literally walked up to him yesterday and I was like, hey, I need a MAF sensor bung for our exhaust. Can you make it? Yep, no problem. He came back there, he got the part, he made it. Like, to me, that's worth more than 4 people that I have to hold their hand and tell them what to do. So advancement in our industry would just be knowledge, pretty much.
Okay. What do you all think would encourage more women to work in skilled trade jobs?
I think if they just knew it was an option. I never knew it was an option. If my father and grandfather hadn't done it, I wouldn't even know it was a thing that existed. So I think there's a lack of exposure, and maybe it's just not marketed.
I agree with what she said. When you go into high school, most of your classmates that are female, they want to be nurses or they want to be teachers. And you don't see a lot of, just like you don't see a lot of women in our field, you don't see a lot of men in those fields. So I think it's a speculation of where you need to go that we're trying to break. And so one thing that I think would encourage more women to come into skilled trades is, I feel like most women think, well, if I go work around a lot of men, I'm not going to fit in. They're not going to like me being there. But that's not the case most of the time. Most of the time, you're like a little sister that they get to look out after and help teach and help grow. So that's one thing that's encouraging to me where I work.
Just to kind of add on to what you said, I think you're right. I think whenever we think of jobs for women, we encourage them, like, what's the first thing to come to mind? It's nurse, it's teacher, it's maybe a hairdresser. It's not a welder, a mechanical engineer. It's not any of those things. And so, exposure would definitely be like, maybe one day when I have a daughter and she goes, well, Mom, what are the jobs that I can go to? Maybe I tell her those jobs. Maybe I leave out teacher because she probably already knows. You know what I mean? So, I think that if we could expose more of our younger girls to these jobs, and even boys, like a lot of guys make good nurses. All it is, bedside manner, right? that's what we think of when we think of nurse, is how coddling can they be. But men have that same trait too.
So what has been the most memorable moment in your career so far?
I think picking one moment would be really hard for me, just because not only am I in the industry, but I've also built a business in the industry. Anything to do with having your own business comes with a lot of memorable moments. Because owning a business is like a roller coaster. You have really high highs, really low lows. So whenever you're getting through your lows and you're peaking on the highs, you're turning around looking and you're thinking, man, this is where I came from. And so I feel like every stepping stone and every path that we've had as a business is a memorable moment to me, because I know how it made me feel, and that's something that I won't be able to nitpick or to place or to put my finger on just one example.
Memorable moments. In diesel, you squish your fingers a lot, you know. You drop things on your feet and your toes. For me, my favorite thing, see, I'm the only female at Garrison, so whenever those truck drivers come in, they're looking for the men, you know. They're coming in there, I'm going to talk to these guys, they're going to fix my stuff. And they see me stand there. And I don't look like your typical female. I don't. I usually have a hat on my head, got my uniform on. They're like, hey, bud, what's up? And I turn around, they're like, oh, you're not a dude. And I love seeing the look on their face. I'm like, no, I'm not a dude, but I can do exactly what they can do. And that, like, back to the last thing, encouraging more women. I have little nieces. One of them's 7, one of them's 4. And whenever I'm outside working on my tractor, whatever, at home, I love seeing them run across the pasture from their house. Aunt B, can I help you? Aunt B, can I hold a wrench for you? Aunt B, can I do this for you? Seeing more women do these jobs is what's going to get more women in these jobs. And, I mean, it's basically how it goes. You know, if you see somebody else doing it, oh, maybe I can do that. I've had so many men tell me, oh, you ain't going to make it. You can't do diesel. You're a girl. Guess what? Yes, I can. You can't have the mentality of, well, I can't do that. It's like, yes, I can. You know, we can do it. You just got to put your mind to it.
I would say the most memorable moment was actually coming to Blue Origin and getting to work on space projects. I think as a machinist, well, for me, there wasn't anything more impressive than working on space hardware. You know, I grew up idolizing NASA, so to be able to work with a company that does a lot of projects with NASA, and you know, we have our own space program, that's pretty much the top. That's it for me.
For me, I've only been in my career for 3 years, so one of the most memorable moments, I guess, is like the first time, as they've all said, when you first get in your career, you've got to be babysat. You've got to have somebody show you how everything works. So the first time that something happens and you don't have to go get somebody to help you, especially every time before that you've had to go get one of the guys to come help you, and you being a woman and you feeling like you need to prove something, one of the most memorable things is that first time that you fix something and you've done it all on your own. Because you look back and you're like, hey, I learned something. I can do it. And so if you're down about something, that's one thing that'll push you further and push you to keep going.
Awesome. So what makes you proud about working in the industry that you're in?
Something that makes me proud is, like I said, when I started out there was 2 girls and now there's 5 of us. So I love seeing more women come into the industry and being able to encourage them, because you can tell they're shy at first. They don't know what they're doing there because it's all guys. And so it's like you get to show them what to do and help support them while they're going through all the same, do I need to be doing this job that you went through?
I think I covered that in the last
Yes, I think I did too.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So what advice would you give to other women considering a career in your industry?
I would say learn all the math. I think because machinists are usually covered in machine oil and chips and all sorts of other grease, that it's not seen as a career that you also have to program computers and do a lot of math. And so I would say that the foundations for school, you really need to focus on just all the math, all the computers. Yeah, I would say that's probably the most important.
The advice that I would give wouldn't necessarily be for my industry. It would be for every industry out there, any kind of woman wanting to go into trade, wanting to go to college, wanting to be a housewife, any woman, any person out there. I would say be bold. A lot of people that we meet with for potential hires, they come in, they have their head down, so they're not really looking at you. They're probably shy. They're probably not knowing if they're going to get the job. They don't know what to expect. And to me, they're not going to stick out. Someone who's going to stick out is someone who looks me in my eyes, someone who has at least confident answers, maybe not all the answers, but at least can confidently give me answers. Someone who can shake my hand and it's not a limp noodle shake, it's like a full-on actual shake. You know, I feel like us as women, we feel like we have to be more dainty. Well, we don't. We don't have to be dainty. We can be as prideful and as respectful and as tall and walk as confident just as anybody else can. And so I would just recommend being bold and definitely getting out of your comfort zone. Whenever I was in college, I took speech. I hated it. I almost failed it. And there's no way that I thought that they could get me up here and get me talking today if you had asked me like 6 or 7 years ago, because it just wasn't a thing for me. But that's the only way we grow as humans, is we have to get out, we have to expand what we're doing, we have to do something different, right? Because if we do the same thing over and over again, what are we doing with our lives? We're not getting any better. If anything, we may be going backwards. So definitely be bold. Definitely get out of your comfort zone and just learn all you can. You know, there's so many trades out there. Like, I have people who I hire in as welders, and welding's great. If you can just weld, that's perfectly fine, because there are plenty of jobs out there for just welders. But I don't need just welders. I need a welder and a fabricator. And, you know, those two trades may be completely different, but definitely go hand in hand in my industry. So if you're out there and you're trying to learn, well, I want to be a welder. Well, what are you wanting to weld? Because that's going to depend on what else you have to learn. You know, I have one guy who can only weld, and we're trying to teach him how to fabricate. But fabricating is almost like engineering. You have to be programmed to be able to do something like that. So, you know, definitely expand your knowledge. Expand, you know, you don't have to go to school to learn to fabricate. But if you're a welder, start in your shop or start in your garage. Put something together. See if you can do it over and over again. See if you can take it apart. You know, whenever I was learning engines, the best way to learn is to take it apart. Now, it may not go back together the same. Definitely use a junkyard engine because you don't want a new one. But tear it apart, put it back together, and then you know how to do it. You don't have to have someone tell you how to do it. And at that point, you can confidently go to a job and be like, yeah, I'm a welder, but I'm also a fabricator. I also know a little bit about engines. I can also do some CNC machining. We have 3 CNC machines, and I know how to operate all of them. Now, programming's a different story, but I do know how to operate them. But just expand on you as a person, because it's only going to benefit you in the long run whenever you get ready to settle on a career.
Anybody else?
She covered it.
Yeah.
Okay, so we want to open it up to questions from you guys now. So if anybody has questions that they want to ask the panelists, we can do that now. And not everybody at once. I know everybody gets nervous about asking the questions, but they welcome them. So hi.
So, and Jasmine, I'm fortunate enough that she goes into a lot of schools with me and gets the opportunity to speak to seniors and ninth graders and stuff. But if you guys could go in and speak to the ninth graders, 10th graders, 11th graders,
I would say it's never too early to start. I didn't start college till I was 24 years old. I graduated high school 7 years ago because I didn't know what I wanted to do. I thought I wanted to do law enforcement. I thought I wanted to do this. I didn't know what I wanted to do, but now that I do, I'm thankful that I do. But like I said, it's never too early to learn something. Don't be scared. You know, talk to people that they know. Hey, if you have an uncle in this field that you might want to go into, hey, get them to show you some things. Spend a day with them. See what it's like. You know, just go to different places. You know, you can walk into a lot of these places and say, hey, I'm interested in this field. Do you think I could tour your shop? Do you think I could, you know, see what it's like to spend a day here? I don't have to touch anything. I just want to watch things happen. You got to put yourself out there.
I would say to try as many different shop classes as you can, as you don't want to commit to one right away. So, you know, welding, fabricating, machining, you know, try them all.
How do you guys think as, people around the community that are trying to get young people into this, what do you think we could do differently to try to encourage them? I know one of you guys said that you didn't know about those things in school, so we're working on it, but we need to get it out there. So what can we do to encourage? I know Karen Jasmine and all the girls were like, oh wow, she welds. And all these kids are teaching, and they're like, oh, okay, well, she looks like that and welds, and I probably can too. And that's always good. But what else can we do to encourage girls to get into these fields? Because I'm willing to try.
I would say let everybody know what the income is, because there's a stigma against blue collar work that it's not a rewarding career and that you're not going to be able to make it in life if you don't go to college. A traditional 4-year degree, and you choose trade school. So if they knew how much money that these trades paid, I think it would definitely help to break that stigma.
For me, I graduated high school 3 years ago, so for me, one of the things, the FAME program, nobody told me about it. I didn't know about it at all. My uncle worked for Toyota, and he's the one who told me about it. I always knew that I wanted to do something. My plan was engineering. My plan was engineering, 4-year school, and then go into work. But he was like, hey, why don't you try this instead? So that's where I heard about the FAME program from. So all these programs that we have, it's hard to get every school out there. And so most of the time, their focus is on your trade schools. So you have a machining class at trade school and you go into it. Well, you walk in the door and it's automatically assumed there's a bunch of young men in that classroom because they're the ones that want to do it. The girls at those schools that pull to go to that school, they don't know, hey, I can do that too. So I think more getting it out there in schools, like start in 9th grade. That's when you start thinking about, hey, what do I want to do for my career? When I was in 9th grade, we sat down and made a 4-year plan. What did we want to do, and what education was we going to have for that? So start early, trying to push programs like these that we have to people, not just the young men, but the young women too. And like I said, do it at the schools, the public schools, not the trade schools. Because once kids go into the trade schools, they're already there. They're already there for their classes that they know they want to do, whether it be welding. We had an engineering class, machining class, maintenance class. They're already there for those classes. So if you're looking to target young females, you're not going to get many of them when you go to trade schools because it's males in those classes.
Yeah, I also want to add that I probably had a unique middle school experience. I went to middle school in Connecticut, which is maybe more industrialized, and shop classes were mandatory for everyone. So starting in 6th grade, and you went to shop class, or you went to wood shop, and we had to make a wood project. And then once that was over, then we had to go to drafting class, and then we had to go to print shop. So I've used a lot of maybe older machinery and I had those really, really early experiences at like 10 years old of being in a print shop and at a drafting board. So the earlier the better.
I'm from here in Hanceville. I went to Hanceville High School, that's where I graduated from. I was told about Wallace all the time. You know, they mentioned, hey, this is what they have. They didn't really push the technical side of everything. They pushed more of the, you know, computers and nursing and teaching and that kind of thing. Because, yeah, we need those people, but they don't realize that we really need more technical people. So for me, what I would say is, like, if you're from a high school or whatever, find those previous students that you've had and reach out to them. Say, hey, would you come speak to the people? And say, hey, you can do this, this, and this. You know, show them that, you know, you've made it in this career. They can too. I would love to go back to my high school and tell all the young ladies, hey, you ain't got to go be a nurse. You ain't got to go be a teacher. You ain't got to go do all these desk jobs that they push you to want to do. You can go get your hands dirty. You can go build things. You can go build rock climbers. I think that's the coolest thing ever. You can go get muddy. You can go work on a diesel engine. You can go fabricate rockets for a living. I mean, it really needs to be pushed. And seeing a former person or somebody that they may know, see, I know a lot of people here in Hanceville, and I know a lot of their kids. I would love to be able to go tell those kids, hey, you can do it. This is what you have. These are your options. You know, don't just put a couple things up here. Explore every option possible, because that's what's going to put you out there. Yes, ma'am.
Do any of your companies offer like a tour where students can come through the company and actually see what you do?
I believe
On a quarterly basis, or-
where I work, Garrison, they do go out to schools and offer that kind of thing. Miss Megan and sometimes Mr. Garrett goes with her. They go set up tables and they'll go have like a career day or whatever they do. You can talk more to her about how that works. I'm not really sure. Like I said, I'm just a trailer technician.
I know at my company, we've had several high schools come and tour. The last high school that came and toured through, actually, there was a young female in the class who was looking into getting into the maintenance side of the industry. So they actually had me go talk to her and kind of show her, hey, you're not the only one. So yes, there are opportunities for high schools to come and tour our plant.
So we set up, I don't want to say set up tours, people who walk in off the street and come into our shop, they're like, oh my gosh, what do y'all do? And you can't explain it. It's hard for me to sit here and explain, like, yeah, we manufacture rock bouncers from the floor up. A lot of people probably don't even know what a rock bouncer is. So I say, well, let me show you. Let me show you our process. Let me show you how we bring in raw materials, we put them together, and we make a drivable vehicle out of it. Let me show you how we have a vehicle that can literally outrun a C7 Corvette, because we do. And most people can't relate to that because they have no idea what it is. So absolutely, if people want to come set up tours or schools want to set up tours, I've done tours with Wallace State, I've done tours with the Economic Development Center and with our Chamber of Commerce. So absolutely, if anybody wants to stop by and check out what we do, I'm willing to tell people what we do, because I want everybody in Coleman to know how we manufacture and where we're manufacturing at in Coleman. You know, we have a large reach on social media. We have right around 3.7 million followers, but we get a lot of reach outside of Coleman, not necessarily inside of Coleman. So, you know, I keep on telling my husband, like, there's still a lot of people that come up to me in Coleman and they're like, oh my gosh, is that a go-kart? And I'm like, ooh, no, it's definitely not a go-kart, a little bit faster, a little bit bigger. But it's been my goal to tell everybody in Coleman and Hanceville and surrounding counties, like, hey, these are rock bouncers. Let me show them to you. Let me show you what we do, because we're a part of the community. And, you know, I want to be able to say we manufacture these in Coleman, Alabama. Someone says, hey, where's Coleman, Alabama? Well, we can put it on the map, right? And so, yes, to your question, tours, absolutely down for it.
I want one now.
Yeah, yeah. There's
right
so
down
much
the road.
fun.
I'm coming up there.
Right.
Yeah. We literally take it to Dollar General to go get groceries. So there's that.
I'm on board.
So, what does your work-life balance look like? Like, if you have, I don't know, maybe you guys have families, or, I know traditionally, like, the mom takes care of all the things, so what does
So for me, my wife and I, we got married 3 years ago. I take care of my elderly grandfather as well, and we live with him and take care of him. So I go to school Monday through Thursday from 8 to 2 o'clock. Well, I leave about 1:45, and I go to work from 2:30 to about 11 o'clock at night time, Monday through Thursday. I'm off on Fridays. I work Saturday from 6 a.m. to 2:30 p.m., and I'm off on Sundays. So for me, ain't a whole lot of time. But I manage. I get things I need to get done on my off days. I don't get to spend a whole lot of time with my wife right now, but that's okay because, you know, we're, like I said, we've only been married for 3 years. We're still trying to start out and get going. We're still young in it, so that's basically how my life works. So not a whole lot of time for fun, but I do what I can.
Due to my work schedule, I've always been on second shift. I've always had to work ridiculous hours. My daughter has always lived with her father because he had a more traditional 9-to-5 job. And I've worked second shift Monday through Thursday mostly. And so then I picked her up from school on Friday and had her on the weekends. So yeah, he's actually been the primary, and you know, he does the doctor's appointments and stuff. So that's what it's looked like for us for the last 12, 13 years.
So, I see your face falling as all of them are telling you, yeah, it's a lot of work. So, whenever I first started, it was a lot of work. But one big thing that my management and our HR has been working on is getting us off, getting us to where we can have time to spend with our families. So, we have just implemented a new schedule for our maintenance crew to where we have 3 shifts, soon to be going to 4. That way, we're only working 40 hours a week. You might have to work a few 12-hour shifts, but you have days off. You have built-in days off to where those are for your family. So it can seem like a lot, but when you sit down and you're actually working it, you have plenty of time at home for my schedule.
So our schedule is going to look a little bit different than a lot of larger companies. We have one shift. It's 9 to 5:30 because that's what my husband wanted. He worked. He is an engineer by trade, so he worked at a nuclear plant as a project manager. So he worked crazy hours. So whenever we decided we were going to create hours for our business, we created it based around sales. So what times most people are probably going to be calling. So we did baker's hours, so 9 to 5:30. As far as me and my schedule, running a business never stops. It's not, hey, I get off at 5:30. That's not a thing. But a lot of my guys get off at 5:30, and they hang around the shop. They go do whatever they want to do. We're very family oriented, I would like to say. I have a lot of guys who do not come from Coleman. They don't come from anywhere local. I have a lot of guys from up north. I have some from Washington State. I have them from all over. So starting out, they were living down in Stony Lonesome, and they never cooked meals. They would go out and eat, so we did family night, and that's kind of carried us through the years. But on Thursday, we go out to eat with all of our guys, and that's just kind of how we like to do, just to kind of be closer. We are a small business, so right now I have 22 employees, counting me and my husband, so very small. But yeah, 9 to 5:30, of course, for me and my husband, that's not the case.
Okay, anybody else? All right, well, I want to thank our panelists that were here today. Thank you guys for, imparting your knowledge, and, good job. Thank you very much. So, at about 12:05, we are going to be doing tours of the programs. Bus 1, you can see the different programs that one will be touring, and then we have a second bus for the other programs. So, Miss Anna is going to have Bus 1, and you can just meet her in about 10 minutes over here by the door, and then I'm going to have Bus 2, and I'll meet you over there, and we'll head down and go check out the programs.
And if you want to see more than one, then
gonna give you a number to text us and we'll pick you up and take you.
If there's multiple programs that you wanna see. Oh, yes. If you are a current student here today, we are looking at potentially having a women in skilled trades or student organization. So if that's something that you're interested in, there is a sign-up sheet for that, and we would love for y'all to do that as well. Okay, we'll head out of here in about 10 minutes. Thank y'all.